My name is Jake Thompson, and this is the story of how my curiosity led me down a path I never should have taken, a journey into the dark web that still haunts me to this day. I was a tech-savvy college student at the time, someone who loved to explore the hidden corners of the internet, often boasting to friends about the weird and obscure sites I'd stumbled upon. But what I didn't know was that one night's exploration would change my life forever. It all began on a cold winter night. I was alone in my cramped dorm room, the only light coming from the faint glow of my computer screen. My roommate, Sam, had left for the weekend, leaving me with my thoughts and my endless curiosity. The dark web had always intrigued me, but I had never ventured beyond the surface. I had heard rumors of disturbing content and illegal activities, but it was the allure of the unknown that drew me in. Around midnight, I made the fateful decision to dive deeper. I had done enough research to know how to access the dark web using Tor, a browser designed for anonymous browsing. My fingers trembled as I typed in the commands, my excitement mingled with a tinge of apprehension. I knew this could be dangerous, but the thrill of discovering something hidden was too tempting. At first, everything seemed innocuous. I browsed through various marketplaces selling drugs, counterfeit money, and fake IDs, nothing too shocking. But as I dug deeper, I stumbled upon forums discussing darker topics. Threads about illegal experiments, black market organ sales, and other unspeakable horrors made my skin crawl. I knew I should stop, but I couldn't tear myself away. Then I found it, a link buried deep within a forum titled simply, "The Show." The comments beneath were vague and filled with cryptic warnings. One comment stood out. "Watch at your own risk. This isn't like anything you've seen before." My instincts screamed at me to stop, but curiosity overpowered my better judgment. Click. The link led to a blank page with only a video player in the center. I hesitated for a moment before hitting play. What unfolded on the screen would remain with me for the rest of my life. The video began with a shaky, grainy shot of a dark, empty warehouse. Concrete walls, dim lighting, and an industrial feel set the scene. For a few moments, nothing happened. Then, a figure entered the frame. Tall, clad in a black hoodie that concealed his face, he stood there, seemingly waiting for something. Suddenly, I heard a muffled cry, followed by the sound of footsteps. The camera jerked toward the noise, revealing two more figures dragging a person into the room. The person was bound, their face covered with a dirty cloth sack. They struggled helplessly while the two men held them down with ease. My heart raced. I knew I should stop the video, but I was paralyzed, unable to look away. The hooded man approached the bound figure, pulling out a knife, a long, serrated blade that gleamed ominously in the dim light. He raised it, and that's when the bound person began to scream. I couldn't take it any longer. I slammed my laptop shut, my heart pounding so violently I thought it might burst. My hands shook uncontrollably, and I felt an overwhelming wave of nausea. I raced to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face, trying to calm the storm of emotions within me. "What the hell was that?" I whispered to my reflection in the mirror, my face pale and distraught. I knew I had crossed the line, witnessed something I was never meant to see. But the worst part was the images wouldn't leave my mind: the bound figure, the hooded man, the knife. And that scream. That scream haunted me, echoing in my thoughts long after the video ended. The following days were a blur of anxiety and dread. I struggled to focus on my classes, barely ate, and avoided social interactions. Sam returned from his trip and noticed my distress, but I brushed it off as exam stress. How could I possibly explain the true reason for my torment? That I had stumbled upon something so horrifying, so incomprehensible, that I was paralyzed with fear? But things only worsened. A week later, I received an email from an unknown address. The subject line was chilling. "You watched the show." My blood ran cold as I opened it. The message was brief, just one sentence. "We're watching you now." Panic surged through me. Who were these people? How did they know I had watched the video? My mind raced through terrifying possibilities. I quickly deleted the email, trying to convince myself it was a sick prank. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. The paranoia set in fast. I started noticing strange cars parked near my dorm, people watching me from a distance, and shadows that seemed to move on their own. I tried to rationalize it, to convince myself that I was merely being paranoid. But then the messages started arriving. First, there were cryptic emails with no subject lines, just strings of random characters. I deleted them without opening them, hoping they would stop. But then the phone calls began. It was always the same. My phone would ring, and when I answered, there was nothing but silence on the other end. Sometimes I thought I could hear faint breathing, but I was never sure. The calls came at all hours, making it impossible for me to get any rest. Eventually, I started turning off my phone to escape the relentless fear. The situation reached a breaking point one night. I was lying in bed, trying to calm my racing thoughts, when I heard a soft tapping at my window. My heart leapt into my throat, and I slowly turned to look. There, in the darkness, I saw a figure standing outside, their face obscured by shadows. I froze, paralyzed with fear. The tapping continued, growing more insistent. I wanted to scream, to run, to do anything but lie there. But I was unable to move. I could only stare at the figure, praying they would leave. After what felt like an eternity, the tapping stopped. The figure slowly retreated into the night. I didn't sleep that night, my mind racing with terror. Who was that? What did they want from me? Why were they doing this? The next morning, I discovered a note slipped under my door. Written in messy, uneven scrawl, it read, "Don't tell anyone or you'll regret it." That was the final straw. I knew I couldn't stay in my dorm any longer. I packed a few belongings and left, not even telling Sam where I was going. I had no destination in mind, just a desperate need to escape. I drove for hours, my mind a chaotic whirlwind of fear and confusion. Eventually, I ended up at a small, rundown motel on the outskirts of town. It was far from ideal, but it was all I could afford. I just needed to be somewhere, anywhere, away from my old life and the people who had been tormenting me. I stayed in that motel for several days, barely leaving my room. I avoided checking my email and ignored my phone. The constant knocks on my door and the shadows outside made me jump at every sound. I was living in constant fear, unsure of how to escape it. One night, while I was lying in bed, trying to calm my racing thoughts, I heard a noise outside my door. It was a soft shuffling, as if someone was standing just outside. My heart raced, and I grabbed the nearest object, a lamp, ready to defend myself. The shuffling grew louder, more insistent. I could hear ragged breathing, as if someone was struggling to breathe. My hands trembled as I held the lamp, my eyes glued to the door. The doorknob rattled slightly, and I saw the shadow of someone standing just outside. I couldn't take it anymore. I leaped out of bed, ran to the window, and peered through the thin curtains. There was only darkness. The shuffling had stopped. I felt a surge of panic. Had they seen me? Were they still out there? I didn't know. The following morning, I packed my things and left the motel. I drove for hours, finally reaching a small town far from my old life. I rented a modest apartment and tried to rebuild some semblance of normalcy. But the fear and paranoia lingered, a constant reminder of the horrors I had witnessed. I began taking steps to protect myself, installing security cameras and being more cautious about my online activities. The fear of being watched never fully disappeared, but I tried to stay vigilant and live as normally as possible. As time passed, the disturbing emails and messages became less frequent, but the psychological impact remained. The dark web had taught me a harsh lesson about curiosity and the dangers lurking in the unseen corners of the internet. Today, I live with a heightened sense of caution and vigilance. The dark web experience has made me more aware of the risks associated with exploring hidden and dangerous parts of the internet. If there's one thing I want others to take away from my story, it's this: be cautious about what you delve into online. The dark web is not just a curiosity. It's a real and dangerous place with consequences that can seep into your life in ways you cannot imagine. As I reflect on my experiences, I wish I had listened to the warnings and stayed away from the dark web. My curiosity cost me more than I could have ever anticipated. It's a part of my past that I've learned to live with, but one that I hope others can avoid by understanding the risks that lurk in the shadows of the internet.